I'm Julie Saunders.
I'm Jan Wilson. Julie and I both have experience as school librarians, and we've worked together as district library leaders.
In each episode, we'll dive into our profession with interviews and meaningful content to inspire you. We're not experts,
but we're pretty close.
The ideas and opinions shared by any host, guest, or listener are their own and do not represent those of any respective school district.
Welcome to Library Exchange. This episode is sponsored by Mackin. For over 40 years, Mackin has provided pre-K through 12th grade libraries and classrooms with access to over 4 million printed and digital fiction and nonfiction titles.
The 26-time multi-award winning digital content management system, Mackin Via, along with divisions Mackin Library, Mackin Classroom, Mackin Maker, Mackin Learning, and the brand new whole school resource management system, Mackin Vision, help to create a truly unique and robust educational resource company that schools and educators have relied on year after year.
For more information, visit mackin.com today. Hi, everyone. You may be feeling a little sluggish today since daylight saving time began this past weekend, but it's time to wake up and pay attention.
Well, we may have lost an hour of sleep, but we are all about to gain a plan for the nonfiction collection.
That's a pretty good one, Julie.
Thanks.
Today, we're joined by librarian Robin Thompson. Robin is a former high school language arts teacher and former high school librarian tech integrator who switched to the elementary level at McAllister Elementary School in 2020. So, when you switch levels like that, is that springing forward or falling back?
It is springing forward. It was time for new things.
Ooh, okay. All right. I like it. She's also the chair for the Georgia Library Media Association Summer Institute, which is a professional learning conference held in June each year. On social media, you may know her as Crazy Mrs. T. Welcome to Library Exchange, Robin.
Thank y'all. I'm super excited. I've been waiting to be on here with y'all, and I can't wait to share all of our cool things.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it. So, Robin, let's go ahead and get started. Will you share information about your school and district?
Absolutely. So we are a suburban school system right outside of Savannah, Georgia, down on the coast. Richmond Hill, Bryan County School System. We are the fastest growing county in Georgia.
Wow.
And the sixth fastest in the country.
Whoa.
We are surrounded by an Army base, a major Army base, and we also have a Gulfstream. We have a Hyundai Meta plant. We have lots of businesses, and our school system seems to be really on top, and the parents want their kids in our school system. I am at a pre-K through 5 elementary. It is its 11th year being open, and so our media center is huge and beautiful and new, which I love. And but I've just been able to give my little twist to it and make it what we have. And we have right now our enrollment grows really fast. So we are at 1,075 kids right now.
Wow.
And we have 51 classes pre-K through 5, but then additional staff puts us maybe right around 78.
Okay, great.
So
that place is hopping.
It
is hopping. Very much so.
Yeah. So for this episode's topic, we're going to discuss information from the book 5 Kinds of Nonfiction by Melissa Stewart and Marlon Correa. Robin, we understand that you hit the jackpot at AASL 2023. You attended a session on highlighting elementary nonfiction and then attended Melissa's session later. You've really taken nonfiction to a new height in your library.
We have.
Good. So shout out to that presentation and to the authors of 5 Kinds of Nonfiction. All right. So to set the stage, Robin, would you walk us through those 5 types with a quick description of each?
Yes, absolutely. So that I'd never really thought about nonfiction having different types. I kind of recognized it myself, but going to this conference in one of the very first sessions, that's what they were talking about. And I thought I can go to this session and walk away feeling like I've got new things for the library. And so that was the one area in our elementary library that I felt needed just some love and weeding but just knowing how to make it more accessible to our students. And so learning about the 5 types from Melissa Stewart and Marlene Correa really helped. So the first one that they mentioned is called active nonfiction, and that teaches like how-to books. So the cookbooks, the origami books, it's anything that where you can learn a new skill. So the kids can, in our cookbook section, it's so funny because elementary, you don't think about them doing that, but they love our cookbook section. Also, it would include even like our gaming books. So like Minecraft, the Pokemon, the Fortnite, Roblox, any of those books that teach them the skills on playing their video games are also considered active. So active is teaching. Browsable is what we think like Guinness Book of World Records. It is going to be the facts. Factastic nonfiction is kind of what we tell it. It's going to have the charts. It's going to have photos. You're going to jump around. Browsable means you can skip pages. You don't have to read it from cover to cover because I don't think many of the kids do read the Guinness Book of World Records. It's pretty chock full of information. And so any of those that where you can skip around, that's going to be your browsable. Traditional is all about. So that's where you're going to kind of an overview of a topic. I learned that there are like 50 something breeds of cats when I came to the elementary, had no idea. So there's like all these breeds, so those, all the dog books and all my cat books, the Persians, all those. So those are your traditional. They've got pictures. They've got the basic facts about the topic. So right now we're doing Winter Olympics. And so they're going to talk about, figure skating and, whatever it may be. It's all about. Expository explains. So these are going to be the ones that make really good read alouds. Expository is a literary style. It's going to be written in expository style, and it kind of dives down into a little deeper. So there's one called Tree Hole Homes, and it's about animals that live in holes in a tree, and that's their homes. We also do the whole series by Kate Mesner called Over and Under. So over and under the snow, over and under the coral reef, over and under the dirt. So you see the animals, you learn about how they habitat, but it's a much more interesting read aloud than like a traditional or a browsable nonfiction. And then the other one is narrative nonfiction. And my kids love this one. It tells a story. So it's just like narrative writing, but it looks like a picture book, but it's nonfiction. A lot of biographies, important events. So we have Hidden Figures about the ladies who helped at NASA. We have Trombone Shorty, which is also a really cool one because he played in the Super Bowl last year. So we were talking about him the next week during Black History Month, and he had just played at the Super Bowl. And the kids were like, so that book became major checked out. So those are the 5 types of nonfiction in a nutshell.
Great. Wow. Thank you. That was a great overview.
Wait, before...
Yeah, go ahead.
But what did you say? Factastic for browsable?
That's for browsable. Yes. So Tom Bober, who's also a librarian in Missouri, he was a part of that conference when I learned about the 5 types, and he made his kids do an anchor chart when he introduces it to them. And I have a picture of that anchor chart because it was out beside browsable. He had the kids describe the different types of nonfiction, and one of the kids wrote Factastic, like it's just chock full of facts. And I always say those are also the really good ones to take on road trips because you can just read things out loud, or like those weird but true facts. Any of those that are like just, oh my gosh, I can't believe that. But it's true. And so they're just fun those are kind of good to do. When you say read alouds, those are good for like road trips.
It's almost like magazine style, right? Where you can just pick and choose what you want. And so that's a fun one to have, definitely when you're traveling. So thank you for that again. With this framework in mind, you began rethinking how nonfiction is organized. Can you describe that? Tell us a little bit more.
Yes. So, I have to remind myself there are no Dewey police. They're not going to come get us. And we still have, the numbers on our books because it's already genreified, but it needs to be a little updated. Some of the numbers don't always make sense to our students, especially elementary. When I first started working there and the kids, we study history in 4th and 5th chronologically, but I can't remember exactly the order, but when I would go over there to look, I'm like, why is Civil War after World War II? It was not, they were in a really weird order and this doesn't make sense. And is anybody going to come get me for changing the order? No, because the kids they are used to seeing it chronologically. They were even like, why is Civil War way over here when, World War II is on the shelf before it. So that was one of my first big changes, is like changing the order of the wars of our history section. So in those 900s, it is now chronological, and that's okay. Then I realized, because we're in a big military community, our kids' dads drive tanks. They drive different jets and airplanes, Chinooks, those type of things. And they love military transportation. Transportation is in the 600s. Where's my military? Way down here in the 300s. And so I took those transportation books and plopped them right in the middle of my military. Why? Because those kids know where all the military is. They can check out a book about the Marine Corps along with a book about F-15 fighter jets. And if one of those military transportation books is missing in the series or has been damaged, they will not stop asking me till it's been replaced because they want to read every single one. And I've learned a lot about it.
You shifted the books to respect how they look for the books and changing the organization. It's a game changer.
It is. I mean, it's why we genreify, to make it easier for our kids to find things. So in the nonfiction, it's just a bunch of numbers. And even though we have tags and like pictures, like here's where this is, it just makes sense to them. And that's what they are to make it easier.
It's a different mindset, right? And I think those out there that are still doing the traditional, there's nothing wrong with doing the traditional organization with Dewey Decimal or even using a combination, right? But you're ultimately trying to get books in the hands of kids. And so if that makes sense for you, then you should do it.
Yes.
It's great.
And with as many kids as we have, I can't always, now I can they know where to go and they can help their friends. I'm like, so-and-so, you know where they are. Go show new student where these are. So nonfiction, the first year I could probably pull data, but it was never even looked at except for like the browsable, the Guinness Book of World Records, which they love. After that third year, when I started realizing the differences that needed to happen, and now we focus on it so much that, that's probably at least 30 to 40% of the books that are checked out.
Wow,
That's great. And now a word from our sponsors.
As school librarians, helping students find joy in reading is at the heart of what we do.
And that's why we love Beanstack. Beanstack motivates students to read by gamifying the reading experience. Think digital badges, reading streaks, and goal setting.
Plus, reading challenges encourage healthy competition that's proven to grow your school's reading culture.
The best part? Beanstack gives you data on student participation, reading habits, and progress, so you can clearly show the impact of independent and free choice reading.
And because that reading isn't tied to a formal assessment, motivation stays high. Beanstack keeps the focus on choice, motivation, and time spent reading.
Ready to celebrate the joy of reading with Beanstack? Learn more at beanstack.com/library exchange. To take it a step further, Robin, I know you have book tastings to get the nonfiction into students' hands. So what does that look like in your program?
Yes, we do book tastings in the fall for our genres, for our fiction section. And so when I'm trying to get the kids to understand the 5 different types of nonfiction, I'm like, I might as well go ahead and do book tasting with it as well. As soon as we get back from Christmas break, I have tables on our big area that I set up with poster that kind of, or a sign that kind of explains what each nonfiction is. And every day the kids know they can check books off those tables. So when we got back from Christmas, I introduced the 5 kinds, even though I kind of talked about them all year, but they are staying there. And I will constantly put new books off the nonfiction section on our back wall onto those tables so they can constantly see, okay, here's a narrative nonfiction. This is what she's talking about. And I try to also pull the books that don't always get a lot of love because, they don't, may not always see them.
Right.
And so they love that we've been pulling those out there, which of course now between us talking about doing this podcast and now I'm like, I don't want you. And I've talked to other people like Tom Bober from Missouri. I was like, do I just make my nonfiction section browsable? He said, no, you still want to keep, because they may want a traditional nonfiction right beside the expository or the narrative one. And you still want them by their categories. So in my plants and nature section, that kind of thing. But it just gets me thinking about, just new ways to get our kids to see these books because I'm like, it's okay if you want to read nonfiction. We're not all our fiction junkies. And I even had a parent the other day who asked me, how do I get my son to read more fiction? And I'm like, why are you complaining? I was like, because he just brings home this nonfiction stuff. And I'm like, it is not just stuff. It's like the most amazing stuff. It's information. Like his little brain is just going to absorb it all. So like, don't fight them trying to read fiction. I have the whole reason I didn't realize I didn't have enough fishing and hunting and survival camping books until I have a boy who's now in middle school. But my first year there, he was in first grade. And I looked and saw we had nothing. So I quickly, my very first order, found a series about different types of saltwater and freshwater fishing and different types of hunting, and then camping and survival books. And I could literally name it the Sawyer Walker section because that's the reason we have it. It's because of him.
Right. So, Robin, I know that one of your biggest hits that you talked about before with us is using that March Madness theme. You bring the 5 types of nonfiction to life during that March Madness. For our listeners outside of the U.S., could you explain what March Madness actually is and why it's such a popular way to get kids excited about reading every spring?
Yes, I can. So March is when our college basketball teams in the United States are finishing up their season. And it's the way to find the best college basketball team in the U.S. And so it's this big tournament. It always kicks off in March. There's 68 teams. The selection process is a big deal because you want to be one of those 68 teams. And it's a single elimination bracket down to one winner. The first weekend is just like game after game after game. And you just constantly are watching it. So it's a really big deal here. It's high energy. If you're a 16 seed versus a first seed and the 16 upsets that first seed, it's like, your bracket's busted is what we call it. Like you fill out brackets ahead of time. Bracket busting, yes. And so with us, instead of college teams, we use books. And I'd seen this with a couple other schools that did it. And we had done it earlier with our Georgia Children's Book Award nominees. But we actually have to vote on those before the end of February, I think, like that first week of March. And I was like, okay, well, by the time March ends, we're already, we were supposed to have already voted. So we chose to do nonfiction last year. I want to draw more attention to those. And I think the kids they just seemed like it was their favorite. I felt like we had more voting. So I picked 16 and I did a mix of all 5 types. And it was some that we had read aloud during the school year, and some were just ones I knew that were kind of favorites already. I printed out pictures of the covers of the books, and I have a glass window across from us with some awards and stuff in it. So I set up the bracket with 16 books. So I send it off to the teachers in a Google form, and the bracket's posted. And each book that's listed either as myself reading it or I found a YouTube read aloud. So if they haven't read it, they can hear it. And the teachers know that morning to go ahead and play the 2 read alouds if they haven't. And then there's a Google form. The whole class has to vote. They choose which one that they want out of their classroom. Otherwise, probably would be bad to have like 1,000 people voting. But anyway, every morning I make the announcement from the day before which one won. And they are all waiting at the end of announcements. And of course, I'm getting on there like riling them up. And my principal's like, they've got to study. And I know they do, but we're going to just do this. It's just for a few weeks. Okay. Just give me these few weeks. And so last year, Trombone Shorty won. And I think a lot of it had to do with the fact that we tied into that he was at the Super Bowl. We played the little bit where he played, I think it was America the Beautiful. But anyway, they could spit facts about him.
I need to know what happens when you get to the final book.
Oh, when the final vote. So then we just have this huge whoa, and we just celebrate. And I usually will reach out to the authors because when I post about it on social media, if the author or illustrator are in the March Madness bracket, I'll always tag the author and illustrator so they know that we're doing this.
Do they ever respond?
Oh, gosh, yeah. So one year before we did the March Madness, Selena Yoon, Penguin and Pinecone is one of her books. She has a penguin series. I don't know what happened, but one year we read that book, Penguin and Pinecone. And even my older kids would hear me reading it and they were like, it's the sweetest story ever. I mean, it's so simple and sweet. And I don't know. And so that was one of the ones I put in that year when we were still just doing fiction, and it won like unanimously. Wow. And so I kept her informed about it. She hand drew this big letter thanking us and drew all the penguins and all the illustrations on it. And we had her as an author visit the next year because the kids were so obsessed with her.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, they usually will respond. If you're an author, you would love to know that kids are just thrilled about your book and voting for you. So
I love it.
This is great timing since March Madness selections are on March 15th and the tournament starts on March 17th. So librarians still have time to maybe decide on their book brackets, especially if you just do 8 on each side to get students excited.
Yeah, it's good timing for sure.
Yes. And I mean, you can do it, and even high school. I mean, you can do it with different genres. I mean, there's no right or wrong, but 16 just seems the easier number to deal with.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever seen anybody go beyond that. You're welcome to try that, but 16 is what we usually kind of start with, and the kids just love it. And they feel like their voice has been heard when they get the vote and it's picked and they
And I
win.
love that it was a nonfiction focus too. That's fun. That's
we're going to do that again.
Twist.
Yeah.
It's nice. I like it. All right. Well, great. Well, Robin, thank you so much for sharing such great information today. In the episode notes, we're going to include links to Melissa Stewart's website and NCTE's position statement about the role of nonfiction literature. As we wrap up, please remind everyone how they can contact or follow you.
Yes, I am at Crazy Mrs. T on Instagram and TikTok. I really love Instagram now. After Twitter, we just kind of all left there. Sorry. Instagram's where I usually post a ton of my library ideas, as well as my Caroline shenanigans on TikTok. So I love to do Caroline in the morning with my dogs and parents and kids, of course, too. And then you can always reach me at rthompson@Bryan, BRYAN.K12.GA.US. If you've got questions, I will be happy to help you with anything you've got.
Well, Robin, this discussion has been a slam dunk.
Yeah.
Thanks again.
I loved it. Thank y'all so much for having me. I love sharing ideas.
We've exchanged ideas. It's time for the recap, Julie. And let me start by saying that many people may be familiar with Robin on social media as Crazy Mrs. T. She dresses in costumes for Caroline duty. You've seen them, right? She plays music. Yeah. She gives treats to dogs in the car. She's really building community by connecting with students and their parents. Everyone knows that she's a librarian. And I loved every minute of this, but don't let her outgoing personality and humor overshadow her knowledge, because sometimes people assume that if you're funny, there's no way you're smart too, right? Julie, I'm dropping a bone. Are you picking out what I'm putting down?
I think I'm catching on here.
Because someone once said, Julie, you're the smart one, and Jan, you're funny. Okay, anyway. Anyway, I'm so glad this interview is highlighting her expertise on nonfiction.
Me too. Attending that 5 types of nonfiction session really got Robin's wheels turning about her nonfiction sections. She knew that nonfiction section needed a focus on collection development. So what better way than to align this different way to categorize nonfiction? In order to take a closer look at her nonfiction, she also teaches her students what that means through book tasting activities and the March Madness brackets, which are just more examples of providing engaging activities to promote a love of reading.
Yeah, and those activities, the March Madness bracket and book tasting, allow her to showcase or highlight her collection. So I wish librarians would do more book tastings with their staff.
Yeah.
That's just my idea. Not my idea. I'm sure many people have it. But anyway, as she stated, the Dewey Police don't exist, people. So don't be afraid to break traditional Dewey rules if it makes the library more accessible and helps put books into kids' hands. Period. Or actually, exclamation point, Julie. Do what you need to do to help students select books they like. Period. Exclamation point.
Yes, I agree. It really seems that questioning and analyzing the way nonfiction is categorized has been trending in these last few years. Similar to the findability model that we talked about last season, Robin mentions how reorganizing the nonfiction really exposed gaps in the collection also.
Yeah, on top of that, Julie, the author of the book, 5 Types of Nonfiction, Melissa Stewart, she has the anchor charts that Robin talked about and activities on her website at melissastewart.com. And I did a little research. Melissa also made a guest post about this topic on the Mac and Community website, macandcommunity.com, if you want to check that out.
Great. Also, it sounds like for Robin, when she made all these organizational changes, that circulation increased in the nonfiction section, which is always a nice data point to use to advocate for the methods librarians use to encourage a love of reading. for the students. That's data that really does tell a story, which is the goal of using data to advocate for your program.
Yeah. Also, beyond that framework, she talked about how important it is to organize your collection to reflect your students, to reflect the community. And 2 examples, she reorganized her history section to be chronological because that's how students learn it. I mean, maybe I would be better at history if that were the case, but the Dewey Decimal System doesn't have anything to do with my lack of history knowledge. But I also liked that because she serves a large military community, Robin moved military transportation books to the military section so that students could find their favorite tank or jet books along with the other military topics. It's kind of common sense.
It is, but in a sense, it's a little bit genius to do that, to be able to meet the needs of your students.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't mean that to sound condescending, Robin, if you're listening to it. That was genius.
So Robin's focus was on the 5 types of nonfiction book, but I want to remind our listeners that in season 1, we had 2 episodes that talk about reorganizing nonfiction using the findability model. If you would like a copy of the standard nonfiction categories that were used in the district that moved to the findability model, just email us at libraryexchangepodcast@gmail.com.
Yeah, that's good. I'm glad you pointed that out. So everyone, you can follow Robin at Crazy Mrs. T on both Instagram and TikTok. And she invites you to email her at rthompson, that has the letter P in it, Thompson, at brian.k12.ga.us with questions or collaboration ideas. We hope your week is absolutely factastic. See what I did there, Julie?
That was good.
We'll be back to talk about why branding your library is both necessary and important on March 23rd.
Make sure to visit our website at www.libraryexchangepodcast.com.
You'll find episode notes and links. You can even submit your questions or inspiring stories that may be featured on the podcast.
If you're looking for some swag for your library or book-loving friends, visit libraryexchange.etsy.com.
That's a lot of URLs, so I'm glad you had to say all of that, Julie.
Thanks for joining us. We can't wait to have you back for our next episode of Library Exchange.